Ever picked up, say, your shampoo or lotion, maybe gave it a sniff, checked for the good stuff like aloe, but just kind of skipped over that long list of chemical names on the back? What if one of those names, one you can barely pronounce, was hiding something linked to pretty serious health risks? And maybe even more concerning, what if that risk wasn't spread evenly? Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into a new study. It shines a light on some chemicals that might be lurking in everyday beauty products, and how that connects, maybe surprisingly, to health inequities right here in the U.S. We're using the source material you shared as our guide, really, to understand this specific and frankly concerning issue.
Yeah, and the study we're looking at, it really zeroes in on these things called formaldehyde-releasing preservatives. The key isn't just what they are, but where they're found, particularly in products frequently used by Black and Latina women. And, what that might tell us about gaps in regulation, maybe potential health impacts that haven't gotten enough attention.
Okay, let's get right into it then. The source mentions this new research finding these preservatives linked to cancer and things lots of us use daily. So what exactly are formaldehyde-releasing preservatives?
Well, the name kind of gives you a big clue, right? They're chemicals companies add to products and think lotions, soaps, cosmetics, anything with water, really. Their job is to stop bacteria and mold growing, basically extend shelf life. But here's the catch. They don't stay stable. Over time, they slowly break down, and they release formaldehyde gas. And formaldehyde itself, that's classified as a known human carcinogen.
Hold on. So to make a product last longer on the shelf, they add something that then turns into a cancer-causing chemical inside the bottle. That seems really counterintuitive.
It does, and that's part of the tension this study really highlights, that balance between shelf life and, well, potential harm.
The source notes that, when formaldehyde has been discussed before in personal care, it was often about hair relaxers and the links to serious things like uterine or breast cancer, especially for Black women. But this new work suggests the problem is, well, much wider than just relaxers.
Exactly. That's a key point. This study, it was published in Environmental Science and Technology Letters, and it found these chemicals across a really broad range of everyday items. We're talking shampoo, body wash, lotion, even things like eyelash glue.
Eyelash glue. Wow.
Yeah. So it's not just the sort of heavy-duty chemical treatments.
Right. And the lead author, Dr. Robin Dodson from Silent Spring Institute, she's quoted saying something that really stuck with me. He said, "We found that this isn't just about hair straighteners. These chemicals are in products we use all the time, all over our bodies. Repeated exposures like these can add up and cause serious harm." That repeated exposures idea feels really critical here.
It absolutely is. I mean, just think about your own day. How many different products might touch your skin or hair? Shower gel, shampoo, conditioner, lotion, maybe makeup. If several of those contain these chemicals, even if the amount in each is small, that cumulative dose, day after day, that's the real worry.
Okay, so how did they track this? Figuring out what products people actually use day in, day out sounds incredibly difficult. The source mentions a really interesting method they used.
Yeah, this is where it gets really innovative methodologically speaking. They didn't just rely on standard surveys, asking people, do you use lotion? Because as one of the co-authors, Dr. Alicia Franklin, pointed out, she's an analytical chemist at Silent Spring, saying, I use lotion is like saying I am human. Everybody uses lotion, right? It doesn't tell you much about specific exposure.
Right, it's too general.
Exactly. So they went much deeper. They recruited 70 Black women and Latinas in the LA area, and they had them use a special smartphone app developed by Silent Spring.
A smartphone app. Okay, what did that do?
Well, for about 5 to 7 days, participants used it to log every single personal care product they used. Every one. And here's the key part. The app prompted them to take photos of the ingredient labels for each product.
Photos of every single label. For a whole week. That's good. Wow, that's incredibly detailed. Sounds like a lot of effort for the participants, but amazing data for the researchers.
It was definitely intensive, but the goal was to get that granular, really accurate picture of chemical exposure from the actual products people were using. Then they used something called optical character recognition, basically, tech that reads text from images. They used that to analyze over 1,100 product labels collected from these participants, specifically scanning for formaldehyde itself and these formaldehyde-releasing preservatives.
Over 1,100 products analyzed just by reading photos of ingredient lists. That's a serious deep dive. So after all that detailed work, what did they find looking through all those ingredient lists?
The findings were pretty striking. They found that 53%, more than half of the participants, reported using at least one personal care product that listed a formaldehyde releaser on its label. And importantly, these weren't just occasional use products for many people. They were things applied daily or multiple times a week.
More than half the participants regularly using products with these specific chemicals. That seems like a really high number. Did they identify specific chemicals that were showing up frequently?
Yes, one chemical stood out, DMDM hydantoin. It was the most common formaldehyde-releasing preservative they found. It showed up in about 47% of the skincare products and 58% of the hair products in the study that contained any formaldehyde releasers. They found others too, but DMDM hydantoin was definitely the most prevalent one they identified. And Dr. Dodson notes their list isn't even exhaustive.
DMDM hydantoin. See, that's exactly the kind of long, confusing name Dr. Dodson mentioned. It doesn't have formaldehyde in it, so how would a regular person ever know to avoid it or connect it to that risk?
Exactly. It's hidden in plain sight on the label. And, this study isn't just a standalone thing. It's actually part of a much larger research effort. It's called the Taking Stock Study, a community-engaged project. It involves several groups: Occidental College, Black Women for Wellness, Silent Spring Institute, and Columbia University. And the whole point is to investigate how chemical exposures from beauty products might be contributing to health inequities, specifically for Black women and Latinas in California.
So it's connecting the dots, not just finding chemicals, but understanding how these exposures might be disproportionately burdening certain communities.
Precisely. And Jeanette Robinson-Flint, who's the executive director at Black Women for Wellness, she connects this to broader societal issues. She talks about the pressures, often related to white beauty standards, that can lead Black consumers to use a wider variety or maybe higher quantities of products. And sometimes those products, unfortunately, contain these toxic ingredients, used in an effort, to conform.
Yeah, and she has this quote in the source that just really hits home. She says, "We're trying to do the right thing, but there needs to be more government oversight. We shouldn't have to be chemists to figure out what kinds of products will make us sick." Yeah. That just perfectly captures the challenge, doesn't it? The burden placed on the consumer.
It absolutely does. It raises that fundamental question. Who's responsible for ensuring these products are safe before they even hit the shelves?
Okay, so given these findings, the widespread use, this DMDM hydantoin chemical, the link to health equity, what do the researchers or the source suggest we can actually do about it?
Well, they discuss a few potential avenues. Dr. Dodson mentions warning labels on products that contain formaldehyde releasers, kind of like what they do in Europe. It's maybe a first step, acknowledging how hard these chemicals are for people to spot on their own.
But a warning label still relies on the consumer seeing it, understanding it.
Yeah.
It still puts the onus on the individual, right?
It does, yeah. Which is why Dr. Dodson also says, look, the best case scenario, the most protective measure, would be banning these chemicals from being used in personal care products altogether. Ideally, companies just shouldn't be putting them in there in the first place.
Makes sense. What about for listeners right now? Is there anything practical someone can do based on this research if they're concerned?
Yes, Dr. Franklin offers a specific tip. Try to avoid products that list DMDM hydantoin on the ingredient label. That's the most common one they found. The source also points to resources from the Silent Spring Institute. They have a website and also an app called Detox Me. And these are designed specifically to help people identify chemicals of concern, like these formaldehyde releasers, and find potentially safer alternatives.
Okay, that's really useful. Yeah. Avoid DMDM hydantoin. Check out the Silent Spring resources and the Detox Me app. Good concrete steps. What about the bigger picture, though? Beyond individual shopping choices?
Well, the researchers also stress the importance of advocating for better laws, stronger regulations. And the source does note there's some movement there. The European Union and at least 10 U.S. states have either banned or are proposing to ban formaldehyde and formaldehyde releasers in cosmetics and personal care.
Right, and the FDA itself proposed a national ban on these chemicals, specifically in hair straighteners back in 2023, although, as the source mentions, that hasn't actually been enacted yet.
Correct. So there is progress, or at least proposed progress, on the regulatory front, but maybe not as fast or as broad as the advocates involved in this kind of research would like to see, especially considering this study found these chemicals across such a wide range of everyday products, not just hair straighteners.
Wow. Okay, this has really been quite the deep dive. It just goes to show how something seemingly simple, like a preservative to make lotion last longer, can hide these really complex health risks, and crucially, how those risks might not be shared equally by everyone.
Yeah, it really underscores the value of this kind of detailed research, methods that go beyond just asking people what they think they use and actually capture the reality of daily exposure by looking straight at the ingredient labels.
Mm-hmm. And it absolutely brings home that point from Jeanette Robinson Flint. Staying safe from harmful chemicals shouldn't require you to basically have a chemistry degree just to go shopping.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into beauty product chemicals and health inequities.
Yeah, we really hope this discussion has shed some light on, well, a pretty complex issue.
And maybe here's a final thought for you to consider. If consumer safety is truly the goal, where should the main burden fall? Should it be on you, the individual shopper, trying to decode those tiny ingredient lists and figure out the risks? Or should it be more on the companies making the products and the regulatory systems that are supposed to oversee them? Something to maybe think about the next time you find yourself squinting at the back of a bottle.